Hi, my name is Kurt Busch, and I'm from the Brimstone Coaching Group. Let me ask you a question. Do you often feel overwhelmed by anxiety and stress? If so, know that you are not alone. And I want you to know that we are here to help you. Our free guide called How to Manage Your Anxiety offers practical advice and will give you actionable strategies to help you manage your anxiety and start living a more balanced life even today. At Brimstone Coaching Group, we understand how chronic anxiety can keep you stuck and how it can keep you feeling exhausted. And we understand because we've been there. And our free guide will help you identify the root causes of your anxiety and will give you tools to begin to create lasting change in your life. Imagine with me a version of your life where you can finally begin to feel things like contentment, fulfillment, and wholeness. So don't wait. Visit brimstonecoachinggroup.com right now to download your free guide. I want to invite you to start your journey towards a calmer, more fulfilled you right now, today. Once again, you can find this free guide at brimstonecoachinggroup.com. Hey friends, welcome back to the Brimstone Coaching Podcast. My name is Kurt Busch, co-founder and coach of Brimstone Coaching Group, here with my friend and partner, Chris Godfredson. Hey Chris, how you doing?
Doing pretty well today, Kurt. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you too. So Chris, as you know, and as I'm assuming the listener knows, some listeners, maybe not all, as some listeners know, we ended 2024 with kind of a bold statement in our last
Mm,
podcast. So if the listener, if you don't know what we're talking about, you should go back and listen to the
it's a good
last
idea.
episode. Yep. But we ended with this really bold, I'm going to say bold statement, but I want to call it an invitation.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, I don't want it to be a statement as much as I want it to be an invitation. Um, and that invitation was based upon a paraphrase. I'm going to paraphrase Ruth Haley Barton when
Mhm.
she said, if a leader is not intentionally investing in their own growth, he or she is disqualified from leadership.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we ended 2024 on that.
hmm Yeah, we did.
We did.
And I think you're right. It's not just a statement because a statement feels like gotcha, right? And
Yeah.
that's not the spirit with which the um, the phrase was used. The phrase was brought into the light for the sake of helping people understand that like we actually have agency. We don't have to keep showing up in the world the way we do. And and
Yeah.
and I think it is just um, leaders lead and
Yeah.
leaders
Yeah.
a invest in their own development and become the lid on the organization if they don't. And there's also the invitation, right, to leaders to invest in their own growth and learning, but also to that of the people that are a part of their systems. So
Yeah.
yeah, it has been true for us. I think the healthy systems that we have been invited into and that we work with, you see people actively learning, growing, deepening their own self-awareness, and places that have been less healthy that we have found ourselves. Uh, the converse has also been true.
Yeah. Yeah. When we talk about our own growth in our context and in the coaching we do, often what we would say is that's work of self-discovery and self-awareness. That we begin to know ourselves more. We begin to know how we show up in given situations more. We begin to know our default autopilot responses to anxiety, all of those things. But that sort of falls in this big umbrella, this big tent of self-discovery and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
that's really, I mean, rarely is there a secret sauce, to growth or to
Yeah.
development. But if there was a secret sauce, I would say self-discovery and
Mm.
self-awareness is probably as close to secret sauce as I would get. Um, you say, Chris, all the time that the work of self-discovery does this thing where when we become aware of who we are, how we're behaving, how we're showing up, once we see that, we
Yeah.
can't unsee it, right? You say
Hmm.
that all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's true. I do say it all the time. I also think it's true, right? And
Yeah,
the reality is that I think once we see it, then we have choices to make.
yeah,
And we do not have to, I think is how I want to say it. We do not have to stay in that same way of being reactive or hyper proactive. We can be thoughtful, measured. I really act from our best thinking more
yeah,
often than we actually believe is possible, I think, as human beings. So yeah,
yeah,
that the self-awareness is key. Self-discovery is really uh, thoughtful, good work. Everybody's engaging. I was reading a couple of pieces just the other day where 64 million Americans are signing up for gym memberships these days, and
yeah,
and gym memberships are like the gym is full in January, and this is what we do, and but there's a Harvard Business Review article out. I'll share it with you, and we'll be like social media posting related to that over the course of the next couple of weeks. But uh, 10 to 15% of people research shows are actually self-aware,
mm, mm.
which
That's
is like
shocking.
it's really low.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and all the more the need for the work.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And for leaders to not just do it themselves, but to invest in the people that they employ so that productivity, uh, relationships, all of that is heightened, increased, and so forth. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm glad you said it the way you did. I wonder how many people listen to this and are just coming off the holidays and maybe had a rough experience with family, or maybe had a rough experience at a work party or something like that. I mean, you said, like, we are not just passengers in these things. We are not destined for the same result next Christmas, right? Or
Yeah.
next
Right.
holiday season.
Yeah. Right.
I just really love how you say that. It just feels really timely here at the start of
Mm.
2025. Which I think brings us around to what we want to say today, is that you and I, Chris, we don't want to just simply walk away from the listeners with the mic drop of last week. Um,
Yeah.
we want to continue to take steps through this podcast to dip a toe in, if you will, to some of this work, and some of the practices that
Hmm.
help us become more self-aware, help us in the road of self-discovery. So we're going to take the next quarter, right?
Yeah.
And talk through some principles, some practices, some tools, um, all of those things. We're going to spend some intentional time tying back to this idea that these are things that we can do, you and I can do, and our listeners can do, that fall under that invitation of, like, this is investing in your own growth.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the first quarter of 25.
Yeah, yeah. And under all of that, kind of underpinning all of that is this thing, Chris, that you and I call the transformation equation. We've talked about it a little bit. Maybe the listener knows it. But if the listener doesn't know it, Chris, what the heck is Brimstone Coaching Group's transformation equation?
Well, it's a simple mathematical equation. They said there would be no math. Um,
Psych.
sorry, listener. Yeah, and the equation goes like this: encounter plus reflection equals transformation. Sounds pretty simple, right? E plus R equals T, and uh, I'm not sure what the values are that are the numerical value that is given to these things. In fact, I'd say there's probably zero. Um, but we just hurtle through space,
Yeah.
right? We live our lives, we do the things, and what's ultimately in the way of our transformation is that we never take the time to evaluate
Mm,
the hundreds of encounters that we have during the course of the day.
yeah. Yeah.
And a life absent of reflection will not be transformed. We'll keep
Yeah.
doing the things we've always done, and there's a word for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad you finished. I was almost ready to jump in and say, ask you the question like, oh, what happens if we don't do this work? And you said we continue to go through life the same exact way,
Yeah,
right?
we do the same thing over and over and over again, and it's I think it's been true for you. I know it was true in my life. Like I would just keep doing the same old thing and expect a different result, and
Yeah.
that really is insanity
Yeah.
at its core. And yeah, it that way of being feels a whole lot more like I'm a victim to my life and the circumstances that I find myself in
Yeah.
versus to be able to stop at the end of the day, to be able to stop in the middle of the day. Oh, I just had this
Yeah.
interaction with my coworker and this is what happened. I mean, eh, if we never do that, we'll just keep doing the same old stuff over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we believe deeply in in the practice of the equation. And if we take stock of our encounters, the way we showed up in them, if there's ways that we would like to do it better, we can actually reflect on that and then take some action. And transformation is possible, friends. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. We believe so deeply in this equation, listener. We believe it because we have seen it. We've seen the fruits of it in our own lives. I still see the fruits of it, right?
Yep.
The listener doesn't know this. I moved. I'm in the process
Mm.
of finishing a move from one house to another, and I don't.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know how many people listening have ever tried to move with their spouse. It's
Mm.
hard. Um, anxieties are
Yeah.
up. I mean,
Yep.
I used E plus R equals T at least 10 times in the last 10 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
really great.
so yeah, this isn't something that we do a couple times and then now we've hit T, right?
Yeah.
This
Yep.
is an ongoing thing that really what we want to invite people into this quarter is to learn how to use that.
Hmm.
Um, in algebra, gosh, again, said there'd be no math.
I mean, and I was terrible at this stuff as a student, mostly because I didn't
Same,
care. I think
same.
mostly because I didn't care, and maybe because I'm just not that great at those kind of numerical situations. Anyway, keep going.
Anyway, when we have these equations as a student, the goal is that we're going to solve them and move on to the next one.
Yes.
That's not the case with E plus R equals T. We want to help the listener, or our clients or teams that we walk with. We want to
Hmm.
help you and them and ourselves learn how to work that equation when we need it versus solve it, forget it, and move on. Does that make
Yeah.
is that
It
clear?
it does make sense. It's clear to me. Yeah. I wonder, may I ask a question related to the move and the equation?
Yes.
Yeah. So like I think I want to ask, did did running the equation impact your move? And if so, what was the impact? How would you describe it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. I'm just trying to think how specific I want to go here. Um, yeah, there's one particular part of the move that stirs something up in me. Um, there's one. Uh, well, I mean, I'll just name it. It's our podcast. We get to say what we want, right?
We
We
do.
we are we are moving from a large house to a smaller house, and you know, I feel something in that. There's something in me for, 20 years of my life that says, boy, you never move to a smaller house, right? This is a sign of something.
Yeah.
So there were moments this past week where I would start to be stirred up and I would start to react to my wife or my kids who weren't, packing quick enough, or whatever the case was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Here's how the equation helped me. Um, I I would stop and think, gosh, why did I react like that?
Yes.
And I could name, oh, it's because this mental model that I held,
Hmm.
and this story that I tell myself, and then I had a chance to say, is that actually true?
Yeah.
Right? No, it's not actually true. That certainly doesn't mean that didn't pop up more. That still pops up.
Yeah.
But it allows me to stop, to pause. I have this encounter. I'm going to reflect on what it is. How did I react? Why did I react? And
Yeah.
how do I want to go? How do I want to be going forward? So I think this sounds so pie in the sky and cliche, but honestly, truthfully, what it does is it takes what should or could probably be for me an afternoon of reactivity, and frustration and short-temperedness, and it just shortens that into like, yeah, I can probably get through this in an hour or so, and
Mhm.
I can regulate, right? Um,
Yeah.
I can
Yep.
regulate my reaction and take some responsibility for it, instead of just like, "Ah, I'm frustrated and I'm losing my temper and I have no idea why. I'm just going to do it." Nobody says that. Nobody says I'm just going to lose my temper and keep doing it. But in the absence of tools, we
Yeah.
we have no other way of being. So
Mm.
I think I would say really the impact on the move is, um, it allows me the space to say, how do I want to be from now on? I see it. It's right in front of me.
Yep.
And do I want to be that way, or do I want to change and take
Mm.
a different direction?
It's really good. Yeah. And it, did it get in the way of your efficiency?
The equation, work on the equation.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no. I'm doing the equation while I'm packing boxes. Like, I'm carrying boxes while I'm working the equation, right? This is,
Yeah. I'm asking
uh,
myself questions. I'm not, what I heard you say is like you work through it in an hour. And, and science that I've seen recently would say like anytime you have some kind of an interaction that is disruptive, it might take you 31 minutes to get back into a groove.
yeah,
And so, if this is knocking me off kilter, it has the potential to slow the move down by a day or two. If those feelings come up
yeah,
and they're strong enough, then all of a sudden you're saying things to your spouse and to your kids that it might delay everything, right? I mean,
yeah,
the misnomer in this, I think, is we have to get stuff done.
yeah.
We have to be productive as human beings, and if we're not productive, then um, then
Yeah.
what are we?
Well,
And and
I mean,
my contention is that we're more productive, the healthier we are, the more aware we are.
yes, I agree. I mean, here's the real example. I mean, we have been prepping to move for weeks, right? For months.
Yeah.
Um, what's true is there were multiple opportunities where I wanted to not prep to pack, because like my nervous system is like, well, if you're going to start doing this, you got to face the reality of this story that you're telling yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. There are very real, there is very real impact,
Yeah.
to the things that we do and to the ways that we do them into the the actual way that we get things done. I could not agree more, Chris.
Yeah, I just want leaders to hear the importance of doing the work, the
Yeah.
importance of like actually pausing and
Yeah.
to take stock of how I showed up in this exchange, how I showed up in that meeting. Was I the way I wanted to be in that presentation today? And if I'm not, then okay, what are the steps? And I mean, we're going to get into
Yeah.
more of those things, but like I just keep thinking about encounters. Are you aware that you're having them?
Yeah.
Do you know that you're interacting with other people? Yeah,
Well, why don't we take a break? Let's pause, take a break, and we'll come right back.
sounds good.
Hey there. My name is Kurt Busch, and I am from the Brimstone Coaching Group. I want to ask you today, are you feeling overwhelmed or are you feeling anxious? If so, we at Brimstone Coaching Group have something just for you. Our free guide called How to Manage Your Anxiety is filled with tips that you can take action on today that will help you manage anxiety and transform your life. You don't have to let stress control you any longer. I want to invite you to visit brimstonecoachinggroup.com right now to download your free copy of that guide. And I want to invite you to take that first step towards a calmer, more fulfilled you right now, today. Once again, that guide can be found at brimstonecoachinggroup.com. All right, welcome back to the Brimstone Coaching Podcast. Kurt and Chris here. Chris, can I ask one more time, what was that number that you gave from the Harvard Business Journal? I honestly had forgotten it already.
Yeah, the Harvard Business Review, that article, I think her name is Tasha Urich, and her research would say of people that they researched, that they surveyed in the area of self-awareness, people 10 to 15% actually are self-aware.
Mm, yeah,
10 to 15%
yeah,
of a lot of people.
that's a lot of people. I think what stirs in me, I'm not sure if this is like the people pleaser harmonizer in me, but I want to like give this 85% of people a big hug and say, it doesn't have to be like this.
Right?
There's a better way.
There is. Yeah. You use the phrase a lot where white knuckling is what it means to be adulting in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
21st century. And we don't have to do that. You're 100% right. So, yeah, you 85 to 90% that are in that category of not having any self-awareness. Yeah, there's an invitation for you to engage the equation.
Yeah.
And this isn't to say that Kurt and I would prescribe or subscribe to the idea that we are fully self-aware.
Mm.
That's not
Yeah.
what I'm saying at all.
Yeah.
But I am far more self-aware than I once was. And it's a
Yes.
continual journey to discover
Yeah.
more and more about who I am and why I do the things I do when I do those things. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think I discover new things pretty regularly, or at
Yeah.
least I become aware of a reaction that is still connected to something that's pretty core to who I am, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, you mentioned earlier, right? Like this, we wish that there was some destination that we arrived at, or we just move on to the next problem. And we do as
Yeah.
adults, but oftentimes the things we do when the next problem surfaces are the same things we've continually done, right?
Yeah.
Without
Yeah.
having reflected on any of our encounters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you want to say more? I mean, I think like we use the word reflection. We've used self-awareness. Harvard
Mhm.
Business Review has used self-awareness. Do you want to say more about like what's the difference between what we're talking about with E plus R equals T, and just being thoughtful and wondering, introspectively. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
not a well phrased question, but you know what I'm
No,
getting
even the use of that word, I think is helpful to the conversation. So that Harvard Business Review article talked about how introspection as a method of growing self-awareness is often not helpful.
at. Mm,
So when we talk about growing in self-awareness, it's often done with a coach.
yeah.
It's also done with some additional tools, a set of thoughtful questions that help people move through a process that enables them to increase some level of self-awareness. So Uric said in that article regarding her study of self-awareness that most of the time people are asking the wrong question
Mm,
when when they're being introspective. So that's why that, like you said that, and it brought me back to what I was reading and pondering the other day. And oftentimes, like the thing that I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with asking why, because I do think that that gets at the core of when I don't show up in a space the way I want to. But her
yeah.
contention was most of the time the why is not helpful in stopping behavior. What is the asking what questions are more useful in getting you where you want to go as it relates to self-awareness. And so like I can go there. I can agree with that. And because the the I think what's most helpful is what did I do? When did I do it? How did that show up? Not
Yeah.
why, right? I mean, um, we ask a lot of why this, why that, why do you? This
Yeah.
is go-to moves, right? Why do they keep doing that? Why do you
Yeah.
do this? Why are you the way you are? Why am I the way I am? Which is
Yeah.
that one is helpful. All the other why question I asked aren't.
Yeah. 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 I think that's really interesting. I mean, even just as you're saying that, I think you and I would say there is a level of why that is important when it comes to our first formation and the things that have formed us to use the behaviors that we have. And I think what I felt stirring in me is that if I'm always going to the why, I think I begin to wonder if I'm actually getting to something that's giving me the ability and the responsibility
Mm,
to move or
yeah.
to step forward. I, I mean, I don't know. I think that's what I wondered, right? If I well, I'll use my moving thing. If I went to the why, yeah, I wonder if I would just continue to think like, oh man, this thing happened to me, or this story was given to me. Well, that sucks, and that's somebody else's fault for giving me that
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
you know?
On the nose. Yeah.
Yeah.
It allows me to remain a victim. It
Yeah.
takes away all agencies.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I love the way you said ability and responsibility because we don't have to. We can be victims to like our
Yeah.
circumstances, our first formation experiences, the things that keep us stuck and stop that have us showing up in situations the way that we've always done it. And here's the
Yeah.
power of the equation for me is I can get clear when I reflect on how I be, if you will, in
Yeah.
the encounters that I have. I can evaluate it. You already referenced, like I can see it. Now I can't unsee it. And so when I actually evaluate how I am in these exchanges,
Yeah.
then uh, I actually can see the part I'm playing in keeping situations alive. And I have a responsibility to like change the dance or to chart a new course for the way I'm going to
Yeah.
show up the next time this situation happens, because I think what's true is like very few things. There's not a whole lot new under the sun. And the things that trip me up today are going to trip me up tomorrow if I never reflect.
Yeah. 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 I think that is so well said. I love the things that trip me up today are going to trip me up tomorrow unless I do something different. I think that's really, really well said. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is our hope. That's our hope for ourselves. I mean, this is why we engaged in the work all those years ago,
Yes,
um,
sir.
because we got a taste of that. And this is the heartbeat of Brimstone to say, um, can we help people not be tripped up as much tomorrow?
Yeah, that's right. I'm just noticing the butterfly off of your uh, left shoulder there. And I mean, this is the process. I mean, we just think about uh, metamorphosis. That's why there's a butterfly in our logo, and it says Brimstone Coaching Group. It's a brimstone butterfly. And the idea is that transformation is actually slow and it happens over time,
Yeah.
but it happens. And the reason it happens is that we take and make the time to process through the
Yeah.
things that we are seeing, experiencing, and the part we play in those experiences. So the encounters that we have, I don't know that I evaluate every one that I have in the course of a day,
Yeah.
but when something meaningful happens or I'm stirred, I for sure am running the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You asked me the question, Chris.
Mm.
What does that look like for you? You asked me tangibly, like what impact did running the equation have on the move? Like what does this look like for you? What's the impact of this on a typical day for you when you run something?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I think for me, the impact is uh, I I can feel a fair amount of shame
Mm,
in the way that I respond to stress or the way that
mm,
I respond to somebody being negative or argumentative with me. And
yeah.
and so for me, the necessary thing is to stop and think about the encounter and start to ask myself some questions. What happened? What did I do? How did I do it? What's the threat? Am, even in real time, I'm asking myself these questions
Yeah.
sometimes to say in the midst
Yeah.
of the interaction, right? You're
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
trying to be present, but when I notice I'm stirred, like my everything's tightening up, and
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot. Where okay, I move, and now I don't feel safe. I'm at the bottom of the thing. I'm fighting to get back to safety. The reality is on the other side of those things, the questions are helpful. I do think that there are times when it slows progress for me,
Yeah. Yep.
where
Yeah.
I might not get quite as much done today as I maybe wanted to, but by the end of the week, I've gotten a lot more done.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and future encounters are handled in ways that are far better. So
Yeah.
it will interrupt me because a lot of times my evaluation is not of the encounter isn't just me. It's saying, "Hey Kurt, I need a little coaching. This just happened
Yeah.
and here's what I did.
Yeah.
Can you help
Yep.
me, help move the hand from in front of my face to see what I did and how I did it?" And yeah, it, yeah, that I think that's where there's some upfront cost. It costs me something,
Yeah.
a little bit of time. Uh, it costs me energy, but all of these things cost me energy, frankly. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does it costs me a lot more energy for a lot longer if I don't actually reflect on the encounters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes, I mean, I like how you said that. I think sometimes we don't recognize the cost of doing what we've always done,
Mm,
because that's all we know, right?
yeah.
It's sort of the same thing when we say the word normal,
Yeah.
like we assume what we do is normal. So here's an analogy, Chris. When
Yeah.
I hear someone with a Southern accent, I say, "Hey, you have a fun accent." Well, I have an accent too, right? But just because I hear my voice every day, I think,
Yeah.
well, they have the accent. I think the same is
Right.
true when we do what we've always done. We don't assign a cost to it because we've always done it.
Mm,
Nothing's happening in me. This is just my normal life.
yeah.
Um, but I think you're right. I think the cost of reactivity and the cost of being stirred up is greater than we know most times.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Quite honestly, I had it over lunch today, and
Mm,
coming out of an experience this morning that was less than ideal. It was not what I had envisioned, and
yeah,
my frustration with technology. I mean, this is an encounter, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
not even
yeah,
another human being. It's things that are beyond my control. But when technology throws things for a loop, it throws me for a loop.
yeah.
I have all the tools. What am I doing? Why am I so reactive? Why is this?
Mm,
Well, there's this like compounding effect of this like never ending technological problems. And so then it impacts the way I show up at lunchtime. I
yeah.
don't believe that in the workspace that I was rude, or
Hmm.
I didn't do any of the things that I can do when I'm irritated.
Yeah,
But I also was just like out of words.
yeah,
said, sorry, I'm not talkative, and I'm
yeah,
not gonna
yeah,
be today. I'm gonna have to think about this for a while, and then I'll be able to like I'll be more talkative later. And
yeah,
there's times when I just need to step away. And that's
yeah,
part of the reflection is to say,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, how do I actually want to behave when when it happens again? Because I think what's true is I will be tripped up again.
yeah, yeah. I think that's really good too. I mean, I think I feel like we could go down a whole nother path, but I think what you just
Yeah.
said of like this encounter happened in a place of work in the morning, and then at lunch it comes out. So I
Yeah.
mean that makes me
Hmm.
wonder how do we even assign the cost to these things when probably it's coming out sideways. The actual effect is coming out much later in a different way to somebody that wasn't even involved. So
Exactly. I mean, what this does now, I mean, you're right. We could run down a trail, and what I want to say to you, friends, is you had encounters as a child,
yeah.
and you had encounters in your family of origin, and if you've never thought or processed through any of that stuff, it's coming out. It
Yes.
is. It is.
Yes.
Sorry about it, and
Yes.
we're here to help.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think
I've
that these pods over the next, whatever, these next 5 or 6 pods in this quarter, I think will give you, you said it. It's like dipping the toe in. You'll get a taste. You get a taste and see of some resources that will be useful for the journey to help you run the formula, the equation, to maybe be less reactive, to be more whole. And I think it's also true that the Urich and the Harvard Business Review is right. Like, we don't often do this perfectly on our own. That's why I need somebody to help me do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I think this is a great spot to say once again, I think we want our posture to be a gentle encouragement and invitation. Um, with the invitation to self-growth and investing your own growth looming still,
Yeah.
I think this is where we just want to say, if you listener are one of that 85%, give us a call. Well, don't give it.
Yeah. Well,
That was the most
that's fine.
1980s way to say that. Uh,
Look,
let, let
yeah.
me let me
Look
let
me
me
up.
try that. Yeah, let me. We're in
I
the
love
yellow
it.
pages.
Don't
Uh,
edit this out. Leave it in.
no, no, I'm leaving this one in.
Good.
What I should have said, listener, is if you are one of those 85%, or your team is one of the teams in that 85%, we have a thing we call free inquiry call. Chris and I both, one of us, or together, if you have a team, you can go on our website at brimstonecoachinggroup.com and click the button that says schedule my free inquiry. And we can talk a little bit more about how this transformational equation might fit into your own growth and your own transformation.
Yeah. I think it's great. It's well said. You can call us too. I mean, our phone numbers are also on the website.
They
That
are.
that's true. I mean, we still answer the phone. Our email addresses can be found at Kurt at brimstonecoachinggroup.com, Chris at brimstonecoachinggroup.com. I mean, even throw a kite, right? To say, hey, I'm really curious about this
Yeah.
and how, what will you do to help me move towards increased self awareness? I mean, I think I just want to make the plea to all of the people who are uh, creating new accounts at a gym in January of 2025. I believe wholeheartedly. I'm not going to say don't do physical workouts,
Yeah.
but to being whole means that you get to pay attention to your entire self. And that would include the emotional, spiritual, physical sides of who you are. So don't neglect this piece of reflecting on encounters, because then you will really experience transformation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe one last thing I would say, if you listener have not hit that follow button, do
Mm,
that on Spotify or on Apple. I don't know what the button is on Apple, but whatever the subscribe or follow button is, you're not going to want to miss one of these pods in this
mm.
quarter.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun series. So hit that follow button on Spotify or Apple, whatever their button is, and then give us a follow this quarter. Make sure you don't miss one.
Yeah. We're
Well,
looking forward to it. It's gonna be great.
yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for kicking off the quarter and kicking off 2025 with me.
Yeah, right. It's there's no really no better way to do it.
Yeah, thanks, man.